Welcome to today's episode of Veo Trailblazers, producing the next generation of talent. Today, we're going to speak to coaches from Peterborough United's academy. They play in the Championship in England. We're also going to hear from the VP of Product at Veo, Kawus Nouri.
Hey man.
Hello mate.
How's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Great.
We've been super lucky. We've had access to people from teams right across the spectrum. Today, Peterborough United, who play in the second division in the UK, have a really good reputation for developing young players and getting them into their first team. We'll watch the interview and then I'd love to get some of your thoughts.
Sounds amazing, thank you.
I signed for Peterborough United when I was 17. Made my debut a month later when I was 18. And then a year later, when I was 19, I had to retire due to a head injury. It was obviously really tough coming out of it and having to retire, and I think straight away I said I don't want to be in football anymore. But the club gave me loads of different roles. It said choose what you want effectively. They even made a role for me, so the support I've had from the club has been amazing.
The guiding principle of the club is that they want their academy graduates coming through the programme and into the first team. So we have a vision which is to have 3 academy graduates that play a minimum of 10 games in a season. We actually got to 2 last year, and there's every chance we'll get to 3 this year. And then the challenge for us is to keep that going, because 1 or 2 of those players might move on. That wouldn't be a surprise if they moved on to much bigger clubs than ours, and then we need to produce the next group coming through.
When I was a player, it was you're being paid to play. For the ladies, they don't get paid, so for them it's complete enjoyment of the game, and it's brilliant to see them giving it their all every game, every session, because they want to be there.
We place a big emphasis all the way through on developing young people. The conversations at 17, 18, 19, well, obviously they do always talk about them as footballers, but so much about characters and the type of characters they are, how much more they've got left to learn and the capacity to learn, which is why we start with that when they come in at 7, 8, 9 years old. The importance of developing those characteristics and supporting those characteristics. Obviously, the schools do that, the parents do that, but we have a real part to play as well. We use the video tools in the same way as we will with the players for the coaches. We'll film their sessions, we'll be able to watch sessions back with them and pinpoint things that, again, went really well, things that maybe could have been done a little bit differently. So it's a bit of a recurring theme in terms of the video stuff, but the power it brings in terms of developing not just a 9-year-old player, but a 39-year-old coach is exactly the same.
There's not a better tool than watching your game back and improving off it. It's there in black and white, and you can see this is what you need to do. So do it effectively, and then again, it's the best way to learn because they can see what good looks like as well.
We film a lot of the training sessions at the club to enhance the coach's knowledge of what their practices look like, how their session design comes out on the pitch, and then we support the players and staff in the main, providing objective feedback through video. Sometimes that's mic'd up, sometimes it's not mic'd up. We look at interventions, session roll-in time, how they've interacted with each individual player. And that informs the practice design and the coaching implementation. It's
a real part of the game now, and for me, a really positive part, and it opens up a lot of doors really in terms of recruitment and in development in general. And we're talking about developing a technical toolbox with our younger players and different turns and tricks that some of the best players in the world do. They'll sit and watch those all day. It's brilliant, It's vital in that respect. And then as they get older and we have a real focus on their tactical understanding again, you can show them our games that they've played in, things that could be done differently to help improve their tactical awareness. But again, showing them different teams and how different teams do things. We do a lot of that as well.
The main thing for my under 14 lads is giving them the confidence to analyse their own game. So it's not just me standing at the front and saying, this is what you need to do better, this is what you've done well. It's saying, right, you tell me what you can improve on, you tell me what you did well, and then you get a real honest review, because the last thing you want is players saying, oh, I was brilliant every game.
If I take you back to a game where we played got beaten quite heavily, and we asked the players to pick clips themselves within their unit. So the players went away, they had a session each, I think about half an hour watching video that I created for them. And then they'd present back to the coaches as a unit. So, okay, this is what we did well, this is what we didn't do well, and this is what we'd do for next time. And I think that works really well in terms of them bouncing ideas off each other. And again, it helps them to understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. So either they can encourage each other, they can drive each other forward. And again, it just gets them talking and communicating with each other in a relaxed, comfortable environment, but is also a real keen focus on development as well.
But we like it to be player-led. So again, going back to the developing the person and the ability to identify their areas that where they've done well and where they need to improve, and also how. And then they'll put those together themselves, and then one of the coaching staff will sit with the player for 10, 15 minutes each week.
And we always challenge them in terms of, okay, so what do you think about this? So our questions to them are never straightforward, it's almost why, making them explain and making them come up with their own solutions. We're really big on that as well, which I think is really, really important, because it's all well and good them knowing what we know, but sometimes we need to understand what they know to get the best out of them, because sometimes they might think completely different to us. And if we never understand what they know, then it'll be harder for us to engage and create that relationship and bond with them. Society
in general, and the way youngsters are these days, they're very technology minded. They're perhaps not so openly communicative as maybe we were when we were younger, because I'm not saying that's a bad thing. So we need to be mindful of that. The more technology we can use, I think they enjoy that.
Often the 15s, 16s will clip together in this classroom, and you always see them saying, oh, look, I've done this, or look, you haven't done this. At the end of the day, it just increases their conversation, their ability to almost talk football with each other, because I think this new generation have gone away from communicating face-to-face quite a lot with social media and technology and how it's so enhanced. And it goes back to sort of the conversations that we have around football. Okay, so if I drop in here, what do you think about this? And again, it allows the players to really communicate with each other away from the pitch in a more relaxed setting, so that they're on the pitch. Hopefully those relationships are advanced.
But having stats to go off as well, massively beneficial, because you can then look at that and think, oh, I thought my passing was brilliant today, but my stats say that I only had 30% completion or something like that. So you can really see what it is and what you need to do better.
We've seen huge developments within that, and the players also wanting to know and wanting to understand how that's applied and how that can be used to further enhance their game as well. Especially within the older age groups, they want to be the quickest, they want to be the one that runs the most, they want to be the one that has the best heart rate, wherever. So they want to be the fittest, strongest they can be. It's really competitive, and you always see in the sprints, they're asking for their numbers straight away, and whoever wins always celebrates like they've won the World Cup. That link to data to video is so important. I think context is everything. So how and why do those numbers occur? What was the key themes behind that? And how was that driven? We always say data without video, sometimes it can be redundant, or it almost leads to more questions than it does to answers. But with the videos, it provides real solid, key objective answers that we use and we can show the players.
The moment that we caught on camera, which was brilliant, and I'm glad we did, was when I was at Bury. We were training, I think it was December, and Sol Shotton, who's now at West Brom, was my centre-back partner at Bury. We didn't know at the time in the training session, but after we got in the analysis room, we watched the session back, and Sol's got the ball. He's switched the ball to the other side, and somehow maybe 5 seconds later, he's absolutely stacked it. Ended up on his face, which, as you can imagine, 20 lads in the analysis room was really funny. But no, there's been loads of moments, but that's probably one of the funniest.
Typically, it's probably with the younger age groups, to be fair, where they're doing outrageous skill or a brilliant tackle or a brilliant shot or a brilliant goal. I think it's nice for them to see that as well. And it's also really nice for us to say the work we've done pre-match on the opposition, and this is what we're going to do to beat that, for that to come out in the game. I think for an analyst, there's no better feeling than that.
Wow, that's impressive.
So I was going to ask, how does it make you feel?
Well, I'm really humbled that we play a part in that. I mean, that's so amazing to see. And one of the things that strikes me is how inclusive they are, and everybody plays a part in this. I mean, in the beginning, I felt really bad for the kid that, probably had his dream shattered by having this injury at being 19. But the club found a role for him, and he could keep his passion in football. So it's really great to see the way that they include everybody and make everybody a part of actually performing better.
Another thing which they referred to in the interview, which I thought was very powerful, was the way in which they're a professional club, but yet the women's team is using this technology and they're not paid. And we've seen kind of quantum leaps with women's sport in the last 5 years. Just how important has it been for Veo to be a part of that?
It's super important. Again, we want to be super inclusive about this. We're not trying to be overly pro or anything like that. The way that this club, and the women's team showed this pure passion. Nothing competes with pure passion. And I think that we see the same thing in grassroots football all over. It's about the pure passion. If you have that, then you really have the opportunity to take it to the next level.
As kind of the VP of product, what's it like when you hear about how Veo is being used? Are there any things that give you extra pride or maybe even surprise you?
What surprises me is actually in the very different ways that people are using. We're just tool makers, right? We don't want to force people into one specific role in this, so we try to make tools available for the coaches to perform at his best, and the same with the athletes. So in that sense, I'm happy that we play a part in it, and I want us to do some more. There's so much more that we can do. We barely scratched the surface.
So go on, what's next level? What have you got in your box of tricks for the magic box next?
Yeah, I think some of the things that we'll be looking into is how we can give more answers. So the way that we can look at the game, and by having thousands and soon millions of games, then we can use that to our advantage and then give better insights. All clubs in the world are not as lucky as this club. They might not have all the resources. But then, by giving people the tools to take some decisions and guiding them in a certain direction, I think, that's where we want to look at.
A key theme throughout this entire series has been whether it's been a 9th tier club that's proper grassroots, all the way up to, an elite rugby team in the top division. They've all talked about how Veo's been really kind of critical for them to get information they wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. When you hear that, what does that make you feel?
Some of the things that we discovered really quickly in this is that we take away a huge hassle. So the huge hassle of doing recording, having to fiddle with, SD cards and storages and equipment and stuff like that. We put everything into one small box, and people get that. And we're really fortunate that our customers are actually, liking the way that we do this. And, our focus is always to see how we can, empower our customers to do more. So it's really awesome to see that. And that's why we get up in the morning and go to work, right? That's what matters.
So, part of why we're doing this is to kind of give people who are maybe quite passionate about Veo or are just learning about Veo a bit of a sneak peek into kind of the what happens and who is behind a lot of the things they use every week. What's your take on kind of like the Veo methodology?
We kind of see ourselves as a sports team as well. We have tremendous, teamwork, and that filters throughout the company. So what we do is we try very hard to find, the most brilliant people that we can find, and then put them together in these teams and let them work with the problems that our users have. So in that sense, people come to work at Veo and they really want to do well. Our product matters to people, right? So in that sense, it's all about how we can put the right people in a room, give them something interesting to work on, and then, trusting them that they will come through with amazing stuff.
The Veo Cam 2 is, when we speak to partners at NVIDIA, there's this little supercomputer now inside the camera. Just talk to me about how much we're pushing the limits of what computing can give us.
I've been with the company for 5 years, and we had a first camera out 3 years ago. And when I think about how much we've been progressing since then, it's really amazing. Back then, we were really happy if we could get from a recording to a result in a few days, and now we're literally talking about seconds. but that keeps rolling. I mean, there's going to be new challenges that we want to do better in.
We heard earlier on in this series, Guillaume Balaguer, he's the award-winning sports journalist. He's also chairman of this 9th tier club in the UK. He talked about he can't wait for live streaming because it will mean his club has a way of generating revenue. He doesn't want to be a Premier League club, but he sees a way of deepening a community relationship.
Everything that goes on, in Premier League level football, we can mimic that in lower tier as well. I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't have their own TV channels. There's no reason why they couldn't, build the way that they socialize with their fans. Everything that happens in the Premier League club, we want to make that available to lower tier football as well and other sports.
Taking a step back, why video? Out of all these things, why is video proving to be such a critical component to learning, to community, to entertainment, to development?
I mean, it's the purest form, right? You cannot really escape it. What's on the images, that's actually what is there. So you can get all the data points in the world, and it doesn't really matter if you cannot back it up with video, because it's a video that kind of shows, the things that are in between, and one number doesn't, tell you that story. So I think by combining the data with the video, I think then we have something that is really interesting.
If you had to kind of say to any coaches or players the kind of one thing that you'd love to hear from them about, what would that be?
What we're really interested in is, the problems that they're having. I mean, how can we help them do what it is that they're dreaming of? And I think that we have a real shot here at doing stuff that, that the everyday coach doesn't even think of is possible. So we want to take, stuff that is normal in the pro leagues and see how we can make that available, for grassroots football as well. And it's a constant conversation in, how we can solve problems, how there's opportunities that we can figure out, how we can, solve for our customers.
Last one. What's your dream scenario? What would be a dream scenario for you? I can't even define what that might be.
No, I mean, I'd love, every football player in the world, every athlete in the world to have, equal opportunity at being great. I want everybody to be able to enjoy their sports to the max. And if they want to do more, I want to give them the tools. We shouldn't have any athlete in the world that said, I didn't have opportunity. We've only scratched the surface. There's so much more that will happen. I think that every football club will have their own TV station. I think that what was only for the pros is going to be the norm for the grassroots. So I'm really excited about that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron.